Hello, Queens. Wendy Russo here from The Winner's Way. And today I'm going to talk to you about some really key things you should think about before you compete in an international pageant and things to be aware of in general when it comes to international competitions. So I competed for the very first time in a pageant that was held in Jamaica, and it was the most challenging pageant that I literally have ever done. And I've done about, I'd say 11 different systems. So I've really done a lot of different pageants over the years. And the reason this one was the most challenging is the political climate. Every single pageant has politics. And with that, what do I mean? It means, what does the director want? What does the director look for? Are there certain sponsors or things that you need to do to make sure that you're on board, that you are drinking the Kool-Aid, that you are a part of the system, that you're gung-ho for it? And the other thing is, if you are traveling overseas, that there's going to be politics there with the judges, right? Because if they're all judges from that country, they may lean slightly towards their particular contestant versus an international one. So when you're competing as an international country, you need to make sure that you're really adept at marketing the pageant, that you're bringing in a lot of awareness to your country so that everybody is interested in the pageant. That's really the key, because directors want somebody not only who is beautiful and going to be a great representative, but also somebody who's going to help promote it in their country. And the U.S. is considered to be a powerful country when it comes to pageantry, just because the U.S. is so well known. There's a lot of money here. There's a lot of women thinking of competing, or girls thinking of competing. So they want that country to really be promoted heavily. So if you're coming from the U.S. and you're going to another country, it's really important that you heavily promote that pageant before you even get there. And that means through your public appearances, always looking the part, making sure that you're delivering exactly what that director wants, hashtagging them in it so that the director, oversees the entire thing, knows that you're really working the title. Because one thing they don't want is a queen that is not going to be promoting the title, or a queen that doesn't look the part when she goes on appearances, or a queen that you see her and then suddenly you don't. She disappears and then she comes back in and then she's out again. So they really want to give that title to someone who is going to make use of it, who's going to do lots of promotion, and also who is going to play the game. Now, what does playing the game mean? Well, in this particular pageant, playing the game was donating and raising money for their charity, which was a boys' home. So I'm all on board for that. I did find out, however, and this is the caveat, is sometimes when different pageants, they ask you to raise money for a particular charity or to do something and send money for somebody or a cause, you don't know where that money's going, right? So I was really shocked to find that I had donated over $100 for painting supplies, and everybody else had too. It wasn't just me. And when we got there, we got 6 paintbrushes. Yeah, where did the money go? We all wondered, because it was a lot of us, and we had to paint the exterior of this house with like some little brushes. There weren't even rollers. So it was kind of questionable. Then they asked for money for us to be able to bring the boys from the boys' home to the pageant. Of course, we all wanted them to come, so we had to pay for a bus and we had to pay for tickets and we donated money. The boys never came. There was no boys' home coming to see the pageant. So where did that money go? And then there was more money that they wanted for other charitable things. Now, I'm very charitable. I do a lot, and I've done a lot over the years. But it did make me question it, right? So one thing that I have to say is, when you're doing a pageant, no matter if it's international or just in your country, is you have to think about, how much are you willing to compromise your integrity to get a title? That's a completely different video, but that's something for you to think about. So for me, I did go to that pageant, and one thing I found immediately was I was hungry. There was not a lot of food being served. I highly recommend bringing protein bars, some emergency food, peanuts, anything, because you never know when you go internationally, the directors could be very cheap and they could not want to feed you more than once or maybe twice a day, maximum. So that's really crucial. If the director is talking about being on time, do not be late. That's a hot button. My director had an anger issue. So there was someone he was usually angry at internationally when we were there. And so you were afraid not to get him angry. And so you would make sure you were extra early or extra anything. So just be aware that the director could start off like a really great guy or great person and then develops into a different person once he's got your money. So another thing is if you're paying for a title or if you're paying to go to a pageant, always pay through PayPal. A friend of mine just entered Pageant and the director actually canceled it because of COVID and she didn't get her money back. She paid with a check. So be very careful of that. Another caveat is if you're competing internationally, you don't know for sure if you're going to be getting your hair and makeup done. Now, at this particular pageant I went to, they asked that everybody use the hair and makeup people, and I said I was going to do my own. And then the director kind of pushed and said I needed to use them. So I could tell he wanted me to use them, but I was concerned because I wanted to make sure I had control over how I was going to look. When you walk in and they have a designated team for hair and makeup, and you don't know any of these people, and especially if they have a different skin color than you, I understand that a lot of my African American clients do not want to work with just anybody. They need to know that someone is adept at working with their skin color. So I absolutely refer them to who I know is excellent at doing that. So that's really important too. I highly recommend you learn, if you're going internationally, you need to learn how to do your hair and makeup. As I had suspected, I did take a lesson from the illustrious Austin Ride, and then a hair lesson from Annabelle DeMars. And I went there with all of my makeup. I bought everything he had recommended to me, including the lashes. I waited in line patiently for my hair and makeup appointment. Well, guess what? We are now at about 45 minutes till pageant go time, and I still had not gotten a lick of makeup done or hair. I went into high gear and I went over to the side and I did my own hair and makeup, okay? You need to be ready for that. And in my opinion, you cannot trust what might happen when you're internationally in a different country with a different set of protocols, and you just don't know. Plus, it's political. Throw that in the mix. The next thing is when you are traveling internationally, bring your must-haves just in cases. Extra earrings with you, glue. I don't care what it is, but anything can happen. So you should be ready. Sewing kits, safety pins, bobby pins, everything. You cannot rely on anything. When I went out on stage and I competed in the first element of competition, I came back to the dressing room and someone had stomped on my earrings to the point that the post on the earrings had completely bent in and some of the stones were loose and on the floor. So I had glue with me, of course. I glued the stones in. I calmly and very slowly bent back the post so that it didn't snap off. They were still kind of crooked, put them in my ear, and I went out. And honey, I won. So the lesson is you had better be resourceful. You had better be certainly ready for just about anything. And you need to make sure that you are on the director's good side, because that is going to make a major impact. And that means you need to be nice to every single person along the way. You are going to need to play the game if you want that title, but you're also maybe going to have to add some questions to yourself. What is worth it and what isn't? Now, for me, about 3/4 into my reign, he had asked me, told me I was going to be a part of this new modeling agency and a talent agency, and that they were going to be giving me a free photo shoot. And, he gave me the web and he said, it's free for me. I said, great. I looked at the website. There was no phone number. There was no address. They said they were in LA or Beverly Hills. I looked them up online. There was no such talent agency registered. And additionally to that, I looked and I saw his package was going to be $4,000 to international people who wanted to be a part of this. So guess what? If it walks like a duck, if it sounds like a duck, chances are it's a duck. So I decided I did not want to be on display as represented by this talent agency because I was already a TV host on, from my own audition, from my own work, my own agents. I did not want them to get credit for that because I saw what he was trying to do, which is he created a false and phony advertising or talent agency, which was not even legitimate. They're literally, I asked a friend of mine who was a reporter to go to the location and see if they actually had the office space. He said no, they're not listed. He called the building owner as well and asked if this company was there, and it was not. So I didn't want to be the face of that, because using my face and saying I was one of his talents and I'm also one of his queens and I'm on TV was going to legitimize a false business. And he would be asking based on what package you wanted. It was $1,500, $4,000, or $10,000, and I was not going to be a part of that. So at that point, as pretty as this crown was, I walked away. And it's a shame, but there are a lot of shyster directors out there. You need to be very careful. I highly recommend that you research the system. And that means you need to ask some of the local title holders from your country, not from the country of origin where the pageant's being held. Because what I saw is he held those people captive in an agreement where, in a very poor country, guys, this is all they have. In a very poor country, this means everything to them. In a very poor country, this gives them credence, credibility. It elevates them, their status. It gives them confidence. And we're very fortunate here in the U.S. that we have other ways to gain our confidence or to be put in the spotlight or to gain limelight and to put a cause forward. So I just really want you to think long and hard about the pageant systems that you're entering, because not only could it potentially be dangerous, particularly if you're a young girl in your early 20s, mid 20s, teens for sure. You really want to make sure from other contestants who have competed, and again, not from the country of origin, because those people may be afraid to say something. You're going to need to find out if it's legitimate or what the deal is. And from that, you can be more safe. Also, human trafficking is definitely an issue. So you want to make sure that you are being very, very safe. At my age, I'm less worried about that, but you really do need to think about that at any other age. So I wish you so much luck on your international pageant journey, but be careful, be smart, and be safe. And also be prepared, because you never know what's going to happen. It was a very long week for me. I lost a lot of weight from not eating and from being up so late. They were not giving us any sleep throughout, and there was a lot of fear. It was a very fear-based pageant. But ultimately, I think you can come home with the crown. It just depends on, hopefully you have a better director that has integrity and that is going to honor the agreements. The other thing this director did is promised a prize package that was supposedly going to have gowns and jewelry and photo shoots and pay for your flight back in and pay for your flight to go to another country to serve. And guess what? Didn't even get a lipstick. So just be aware that a lot of those prize packages may not even come true unless you have heard from the current title holder that they received all of that, or the one before. It's not happening. So don't think that it's a fluke. Oh, it's just her year. It's not going to be mine. They pretty much show their colors, the true colors, and you cannot be guaranteed they're going to be changing, right? So didn't get one prize, had to do all of my own photo shoots myself. I did a lot of appearances that year. I really promoted the pageant heavily, and yet the director also did not pay for anybody's flight out after promising them And there was a Mr. category, and he also said he was not flown out. So sad but true. And the Mr. even had taken off from work. You know how you have to say, I'm going to be on vacation or whatnot if you have a job. He took off work, put his vacation days in as attending this pageant, and then the director never sent a ticket after all of that. So it's very sad, but it's a learning experience and it's a growth experience, at least for me. And I hope it's going to be for you as well. So be careful where you put your money. Make sure you find a director with integrity, because as far as I'm concerned, this is super pretty, but your integrity is worth more. All right, take care, Queens. And don't forget to subscribe, pass it on to your friends, and also join my Facebook page called The Winner's Way to give you more tips. Bye, Queens.